my goodness. I am at my wit's end. Like the kids, I feel like I never get a break from them.
Mm.
They're underfoot all the time. Like I'm trying to run this business.
Mm.
And I'm putting in the time at the office. You know, there's trickle over at home. And so I got to do some things at night. But
Yeah.
like the kids are on the screens more than I want them to be. And then I feel guilty about that. Then I'm like flopping into bed at night and I'm feeling like a failure. And my husband, I'm like, when do I ever give him any attention? I mean, this is nuts. It's just total chaos.
Jordan, when do you give your husband attention? When do you give you your attention? How's your self-care practices?
That's something I really need to consider.
Yeah, it sounds like you really just need to work on your mindset.
Mindset. Oh, that's funny. Like, who has time to even Google what mindset is? Like, it feels like such a generic term, like this woo-woo term that people with time and like a nanny, you know, could dive into and
Right.
like go deep with. Mindset. What is that? What does that even mean?
Yeah, and what does it mean is what we're talking about. Okay. First, why do we care about it? Is because there's for all the times where we kind of like shake our fist at the moms or the dads that have the time to wax and wane about transforming their mind, and we're both attracted to it and disgusted by it because it's like, who has the time? What does it even mean? How do you even do it? And yet we can feel stuck in certain patterns, our own internal patterns, how we think about things. We feel negative, and it's like we want a way out, but we don't really know how to do it. And the only thing we hear out there are these big, amorphous, buzzy concepts.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. No longer anymore after this podcast. We're breaking it down.
We're going to break it down right here today on the Families of Character Show with Andy Hickman from the Heal community, folks.
We're back. Part 2.
We are back. We did an episode before called From Overwhelm to Ease. If you have not listened to it yet, please check it out. Andy and I have been working together for, I think, 18 months now.
Basically like 30 years.
Exactly. Yeah. It feels like we were just fast friends. I mean, you get what's going down here, the Team Langdon, and have been such a help to me and just clarifying some of the chaos and going from a place of feeling like I was just bogged down with all the thoughts and worries and pressures to a place where I could breathe, do some fun things that I had been missing out on for a long time.
Shout out to Claire Moriarty for introducing us to each other.
Yes, Claire, that was awesome. I love a good connection. So let's dive into this. Let's dive into this mindset chat.
Yeah, great. So we're going to start by doing a couple. I'm going to lead Jordan through some games, some language games. And then we're going to have those games will contextualize the definition of mindset. Okay, so first we're going to jump in. I want you to write a sentence on your piece of paper.
Okay,
and write these exact words, please. And for the listeners, you will get more out of this podcast if you also have the ability to do this. If you're driving around, we get it. And if you can write, you'll get more out of this podcast by doing the writing as well. Okay, so write this sentence down, Jordan.
Okay.
Will you just clean your bedroom? Then I want you to leave a couple spaces under that. Write this sentence. It's time for dinner, okay?
Got it.
Third sentence. They're always looking at their phone. Okay. Yeah, you got it.
Okay, got it written.
Fourth sentence, we're almost there. Which one of these? Let's do... Oh, this is a great one. I don't want them to be negatively influenced by the other kids in the neighborhood.
Got it.
Last one, and then we're having fun. I think it's time to have the talk.
Well, this is going to be good, folks.
So these are... do these sound like things that are regularly heard as you are working with families?
Yes, 100%.
Mm-hmm. And cool. So let's play with them. Let's read that first one all the way up at the top of your piece of paper. Go ahead and read that one out loud.
Will you just clean your bedroom?
How does it feel to say that out loud?
How does it feel? It feels like I'm disappointed, disgusted, like it's just one thing I'm asking you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just do the one thing?
Mm-hmm. Do you like that feeling?
No. As a parent, it feels like I have feelings of like shame about that. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh, I don't want to talk to my kids like that.
Right. So that's how we feel as a parent. And we can imagine how the child feels on the receiving end, right?
Yes.
Okay, so take your pen.
Okay.
And strike out the word just.
Okay. Crossing that out.
And reread.
Will you clean your bedroom?
Great delivery. How does that one feel compared to the first one?
It feels a little bit more neutral, like not just, but will you do the thing that I'm asking you to do?
Like an actual question.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Cool. We're going to come back. We're like touching things, and then we're walking over somewhere else, having a conversation about what happened. Then we're going to come back and we're going to understand why these things are happening the way they're playing out. Okay. Second sentence. This guy, go ahead and read that one.
It's time for dinner, okay? This is great.
Scratch out okay and then reread.
It's time for dinner.
Did you hear that? The hang at the end?
Yes.
It's like you're so used.
Annoyed.
Yes.
Yes. Like, it's time for dinner. Get here now.
This one's an easy one to nip in the bud for everybody is when you're asking, when you're making a request or you're communicating something to the kids, pay attention now because you're going to hear it all the time. We slip it in all the time. A little okay at the end. Taking that okay out makes a big difference. You feel it energy wise when you say it because it's like you said the thing and then you like take all the power out of it at the end by adding a okay at the end. Is this a question or are you telling them something? Right?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll explain some of these more than others. This will be fun. Read this next one.
Okay. They're always looking at their phone.
Okay. What kind of emotion comes up with that sentence?
Frustration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you're frustrated like that, like what does your body do?
Tenses up. Yeah, I just get this like tightness and kind of this forward posture,
Mm-hmm.
like this is so annoying. They're always looking at their phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, take your pen and scratch out there at the beginning.
Okay.
Put an I'm.
Okay.
Scratch out there here and put in my.
Woo!
Reread.
All right. I'm always looking at my phone.
What does that picture change create in you?
Like feelings of guilt, like, oh.
Does it say something about the previous version? Do you see that before we put an I'm, do you see that sentence differently now?
I think it I like to sit with this for a few seconds, but I think what I'm saying is more like a connection and empathy or compassion for if I'm talking about my kids.
Yeah.
Because it's like I just spoke about myself. And so just in saying I'm always looking at my phone, I'm like they have the same temptations I do. Mm-hmm. And I know it's hard. Mm-hmm. So right there, it was like there's like this little bubble up of compassion for like if I was saying that about my kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Their mindset is a mechanical thing. We'll define it in just a moment. What you're hearing, listener, are different parts of the mechanics being turned. What was just done is called a reflection, and it does exactly what you experience, which is you said, I need a moment to think about that. Mm-hmm. That's what a reflection does, is it facilitates a stepping back and reflecting. Mm-hmm. Like, what's actually going on here? And is there a way that I'm contributing to the thing that I'm trying to change?
Mm-hmm. Good.
Okay. There's a juicier one, which it kind of has more of the mechanics involved. What we'll do is we'll skip that. We'll come back once we understand the names of these things, and then we'll be able to play with it. And then this is a very different one. Go ahead and read this guy right here out loud.
Okay. I don't want them to be negatively influenced by the other kids in the neighborhood.
Okay. And what kind of vibe does that sentence create for you?
A sense of like wanting to guard and shield, like a need to protect. Mm-hmm. And what also comes up is like, I must worry about my children's like sense of right and wrong, or their ability to be assertive and stand up for themselves, even if they're playing with people that have different ideas about what's good and right. And
yeah, totally.
So that concern, like, I don't want them to be negatively influenced by the other kids in our neighborhood. Yeah, that feeling like they're not adequately prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. There's sometimes people would describe it as bracing for impact. Like you're painting a picture of what you don't want to happen. So here's an interesting alternative. That's what you don't want to happen. What do you want to happen in regards to the neighborhood kids?
Yeah, that's a mind shift.
Yeah.
Right there. Okay, let me sit with this for a minute, because the original sentence is, I don't want them to be negatively influenced by other kids in the neighborhood.
Now we're changing don't to do. I do want, and then the rest of it you can scratch out and fill in with whatever you want.
I do want them to positively influence other kids in the neighborhood.
Okay, now this is a spontaneous thing. What does that sentence create? How does it feel to say that one?
I do want them to positively influence other kids in the neighborhood. Just right away, what comes up is, and that's on me. Like a sense of personal responsibility to prepare them for that, but like in a positive way, like kind of in an empowered sense. Where I want them to be a positive influence out in the neighborhood. And so how can we do that here in the home to be sure that that's something that they're equipped to do?
It brings very different considerations into your mind, right?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Totally. At first, right off the bat with I don't want them to be negatively influenced by other kids in the neighborhood. Yeah. Instantly, I was thinking of showing them porn on the phone and like going down the rabbit holes of the internet in their pocket and all the just like the wildest things that could happen to my kids, and like that sense of, oh no. Yeah, this is totally different.
What's one of the pictures that this other version creates? If before you were imagining porn on the phone and your kid running back to you, what kind of image? What's one of the images that this one creates?
I just see like my kids at the playground at the park, and kids doing something crazy, riding their bikes down the slide. Yeah. And like our kids being able to say like, hey guys, I know that seems really fun, but you're modeling for other people like something that's dangerous, and like you probably wouldn't get hurt, but the little kids might really get hurt if they try it. So we're worried about that. Would you mind not doing that? Like that would just be awesome. Yeah. Like for them to be able to speak up and to positively influence in kind of just in a gentle way. Yeah. Where it's not driving people away, but it's helping them think about what they're doing in the moment.
Does that make you more excited about your family culture or less excited?
Totally excited. Like, this is my jam. That was like, let's do this. Yes. Yes.
The words that we choose paint the pictures in our head. And so if we don't like the pictures that are in our head, we're in control of that if we know how to use our language. Right?
Yes.
So now this one is not planned. Do your kids positively influence other kids in the neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay, so what was that version right now? I want them to.
Yes.
Okay, change out I want them to.
Okay.
And put in my kids.
Okay. My kids positively influence other kids in the neighborhood.
How does that one feel?
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so one last one. Change mine to our.
Even
read
better.
that. Yeah,
okay.
Read it.
Our kids positively influence other kids in the neighborhood. That's like this team culture. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is to get like a taste in the mouth, right? We're going to now break down like, how do I know what words to change? How can the listener know what words to change? And why are words such a big deal?
Great.
Okay. So let's get into defining mindset.
Okay.
Because like we were kind of goofing around and having fun at the beginning, mindset can feel like it's like a cloud. It's like, where do you actually touch it? You hear it a lot. When you hear it, sometimes it seems like, yeah, that is what I'm missing, but how do I even get started? Most people don't have a definition for mindset. And that makes it very hard to start. If you Google mindset, you're going to get some terrible definitions as well. The overarching theme is the one of being fixed. Okay.
A fixed mindset.
Yeah. It's sort of your destiny. And you're like, okay, well, then I can't even do anything about it. So what's the point of even knowing about it? Here's the better definition. And both the listeners and you, Jordan, should write this down. Mindset is, it's right in front of our nose. It is the set of stories you keep in mind.
Mindset is the set of stories you keep in mind.
And that's it.
Got it.
Compared to your image of mindset before this, what's the difference that when you look at this and kind of sit with it, what is a before and after in terms of how you relate to mindset or how you imagine mindset?
I would say initially the picture I got of mindset is like walking into a library and the books on the shelf are like not yours to keep.
Right.
And so while it's nice and there's a lot to choose from, it's kind of like overwhelming and it's not your own. So there's something big and like there's not ownership there. But right when I read the definition of this, mindset is the set of stories you keep in mind. I actually got an image of my parents' living room, and they have this bookshelf wall, and they have this whole set of encyclopedias. And I'm like, man, you guys still have the encyclopedias, like the Encyclopedia Britannicas.
Right.
But then I got this image of like, you could take those and get rid of them and get new books.
Exactly. Right.
And so you're not stuck with what the library has to offer. These are your books. You could trash them. You could take one out at a time and replace it with something you want or you prefer. And so that's what this definition offers me, is like choice and opportunity and like, okay, this is easier than I thought.
Yep. Yeah. You are not your thoughts.
Yes.
You're the observer and the creator of your thoughts. And most people, not because they're stupid, it's just like, it's so close to home. How could it not be you? The things that are running around in the head, we often even hear them in our, like, we don't actually audibly hear them, but like we, in a way, hear them in our own voice. Right? So how could they not be there it is. I had the thought. It's the proof that I believe so and so, or blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Okay. What this definition does is it helps clarify your ability to participate in the thing. So you're the storyteller.
Yes.
And if mindset is a set of stories that you keep in mind, if you don't like them, you can keep other stories in mind. And then the other thing is, well, a story is much simpler than, say, a belief. So if we said mindset is the set of beliefs you keep in mind, that becomes a lot more complicated in terms of how do I interact with it. The beauty of stories is they have a beginning, they have an end, and they're made up of words.
Yes.
Okay. So if you know how to play the game of words, you can change stories and you can better understand stories. So what we were doing at the beginning with these sentences,
yes,
we were working off of, there's 4 main patterns to start with in terms of how to apply mindset or how to practice mindset in your own life. And what we were doing is each of those sentences represented one of these kinds of patterns.
Okay.
Let's actually just go back and look at them, and we can define each one. So that first sentence was, will you just clean your bedroom? That word just falls in the category of what's called a dramatic. So it's something that builds up pressure or tension or urgency. Okay.
Yes.
The opposite of a dramatic is what you can call a moderation. It's something that opens up the window in the kitchen, lets some of the steam out. So sometimes that looks like just plucking out the dramatic word and taking it out, and you can feel the difference. Sometimes you positively add a word in there. So she never listens to me. Never? Right? And at first, someone might go like, oh, this is just smarty pants, but actually speak the word and feel the difference, right? Mm-hmm. Does she never listen to you, or does she sometimes listen to you?
Right.
Very big difference.
Yes.
And it's easy to create the difference if you know where it's coming from. Okay. So that's that first pattern, which is, and these patterns ultimately either put you in the driver's seat in life or they put you in the passenger seat in life. Mm. Okay. Active or passive. So if you want to have an active role in your life, mind your words. And the first category is passive kind of mindset is going to have a lot of dramatic words in it. Mm-hmm. An active mindset, or being in the driver's seat, is going to have is going to use moderate language.
Yes, I'm following you, Andy Hickman.
Okay, cool. You with me?
This is great.
Good. Great. Let's look at that second sentence. It's time for dinner, okay? That okay is a subtle form of what's called soft talk. So it's words that create ambiguity or indecision, or they reflect ambiguity or indecision. So things like think, might, sort of, kind of, I feel like. These are not automatically like negative things, but it's when they start to become overwhelmingly used or they disproportionately used. Like, I sort of think it might be time I go to the gym, right?
Yes.
Or is it time that I go to the gym, right?
Yes.
So we can put ourselves into the passenger seat if we excessively use soft talk. Mm. The opposite of soft talk is solid talk, and it usually is just the absence of soft talk. So there we took out okay, and it's time for dinner, okay, became it's time for dinner. Creates a very different feeling.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm picking this up. I'm making notes over here. If you are watching us on YouTube, I've got my pen going like crazy because this matters to me and I want to understand the concept fully and to be able to teach this to my kids, to talk to them about the importance of choosing your words and minding your vocabulary. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really important. And often um, intention is not sufficient when it comes to communication. I might have a really clear intention in what I want to communicate to my kids, but if I'm handicapping myself with my own words, that's going to negatively impact my ability to relate to my kids. And this is a rabbit hole. It'll be very short, which is look into the etymology of the word relate, everybody. Speech is part of it. So if you're looking to improve your relationships, you want to improve your speech. Think of like it's an kind of an antiquated use of the word, but relate used to refer to speech. Like he relayed a message to blah blah blah.
Yes.
Okay. So the part of a major, I don't know, fulcrum or lever. I'm venturing into a weak spot of my knowledge, which is physics. Is our words, is our language, and our speech, which is that's a foundational piece of your relationships, any kind of relationship. I mean, we were just talking about this earlier.
Yes.
Okay, let's look at that third sentence. The difference, what changed between they're always looking at their phone and, oh, I'm always looking at my phone. The difference there is the pattern is the passenger seat pattern is what's called a projection. The driver's seat pattern is what's called a reflection. So projection are words that push the ability, the realm of responsibility or the zone of freedom out there. It's out of my hands. It puts it in a place that I can't do anything about it. Yes. Whereas reflection brings it back to me. What part of this am I able to do something about? That's stirring something in you.
You can see it. Yeah. When something's stirring up in me, you immediately recognize it, like visually. And you're right. So projection, yes, you projecting something of yourself onto someone else.
Mm-hmm.
External locus of control.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Right? It's taking your control and like launching it like a shot put out into a ring somewhere else where you can't get to it. Mm-hmm. Like they're doing something, and because that's something that they are doing, like there's some like onus of responsibility for me that goes away.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, well, my hands are tied. They're
short-term fix.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And then reflection, I had just like an image, an example of observing my kids doing something that frustrated. I was like very disappointed in whatever the behavior was that they were doing. And I caught myself before I corrected them. Mm-hmm. And I immediately asked myself, like, hold up. How are you doing in this area yourself? I think it was probably around sweets, like they're asking for another, round of sweets. And it's like, hold up, before you scold them, think to yourself, like, are you going for one more piece of candy?
Right.
Or ice cream 2 nights in a row yourself?
Yep.
And if the answer is yes, then correct. I want to work on correcting my own behavior before I even address it with them.
Yeah. So projections, there's layers to them. One of it is, it's deflecting responsibility. Maybe more subtle version is deflecting. It's not limited to like a negative, like moving the negative thing. Creating distance between you and the negative thing by putting it out onto somebody else or someone else or something else.
Okay.
Right. But you also can take a positive thing and create distance between you and it by shooting it out over there with a projection.
Sort of like giving credit to someone else for something that you did yourself.
Yeah. And so if you are aware of this, you can also do a better job embodying the good things that you're doing. Because you take the action which you created and you're helping it actually be closer to the agent of the person who did it. So it was a subtle one, but we did that in the unplanned thing where we changed my kids in the neighborhood to our kids in the neighborhood, that felt closer to home, correct?
Yes.
Exactly. And that's because we were tuning up the volume in terms of reflective language.
Okay. Keep going with this. This is marinating.
Yeah.
This is good. This
cool.
is good.
So let's do a little bit of a review. There's two main master patterns of words that either put you in the driver's seat of your own life or the passenger seat. Most people are living their life as non-playable characters.
Whew, did you hear that? That is not good news.
And it's very good news because it's all within their ability to change. So if they don't want it, they can change.
See,
right?
There is the hope in the message here, people. We are not stuck. We are not victims. We are not going to just be seat belted into the passenger side of the car.
No one likes being a non-playable character, and the majority of people aren't actively choosing that. They don't realize they have another option.
Thank you for saying that, because it could seem like, right, like you idiots, what, just get in the, like,
right.
No, you're not intentionally benching yourself or putting yourself
correct
in a position that you can't turn the car or run the gas.
Right.
You just landed in that spot. You kind of,
this kind of stuff is not taught in schools.
You don't know what you don't know. It's not your fault.
Right.
You just kind of landed there, but now
right
that you're becoming aware of it, that's when I love it, because it feels like the veil is starting to, like, first of all, you recognize there's a veil there. Like, what? Wait, we can change our language? And
you're
like,
holding the veil.
Right.
So you can be like, I just let this go.
Right. Or you can, like, peel it back a little by little, whatever you're comfortable
Yeah, whatever
with.
you're comfortable with.
Yes. This is
That's
so
great.
good.
Okay, so you can be in the passenger seat or you can be in the driver's seat. A major factor of which one you're going to be is the kinds of words that you use. So there's 4 main patterns that we're talking about in this podcast. The first pattern was you can use dramatic words or you can use moderate words. The second pattern was you can use soft words or you can use solid words. The third pattern was you can use words that project or you can use words that reflect. The last one was I don't want them to be negatively influenced by other kids in the neighborhood. That's called a negation. It's painting a picture of what you don't want, which does an amazing job of keeping you from having access to what you do want.
You're so right.
Right?
I find myself in this position. I just told you earlier, some people call me worst case scenario girl.
Right.
Because I'm anticipating, like, the worst case that could come up. But then it kind of draws my attention towards that situation versus the possibility of something wildly different.
Yes. It's a muscle that we are not used to exercising, and we are fully capable of exercising. So what's the opposite of a negation? It's an affirmation. So an affirmation is not like I'm special.
I'm smart enough. I'm good enough.
Good enough.
People like me.
Right. Exactly. Oh my gosh. What was that? SNL?
Yes, totally. Saturday Night Live in the 90s. We're dating ourselves.
Right. Okay. So affirmations don't need to be only that. Affirmation is what do I want? What is the case? And it feels so different.
So different.
Okay,
we're going to have to spend some time in this fourth area.
Yeah. So that one is well, we'll spend time by association. Okay?
Sure.
So what have we done so far? We played some games. We felt some different feelings when we changed different words, but we didn't know why that was happening. Then we defined mindset. Mindset is the set of stories you keep in mind. Stories are not an infinite, even though sometimes the feelings in our mind and the thoughts in our mind can feel like an infinite swirl. Stories have a beginning and they have an end, and they're made up of words. So if you can start to increase your awareness of words, you can start to change your stories. You're the storyteller. So what are the words that we should be keeping out for? We talked about the 4 main groupings or categories. Now what we can do is we can start to apply this. Let's apply it in 2 different ways. So we're going to do another language game. And this time, the listener, try to pay attention and see what I'm doing, okay, as I'm doing it. You, Jordan, you just feel the difference that the different words make, and then we'll do the breakdown together afterwards.
Great.
After that, I'm going to show, and you're going to do, a longer form exercise. So there's 2, you're going to end this episode with 3 different practical ways to practice your mindset. One is like the small level, which is pay attention to one of those categories of words. Mm-hmm. Just, and even if you wrote that, those 4 categories on a piece of paper and taped it up somewhere, that's enough for the mind to start paying attention to it. We're going to call that the small way to practice. Medium way to practice we'll get into shortly. And then we'll also talk about a short way to practice this as a family.
Great.
At a way that kids can get involved in. Okay, so here's the sentence. Now we kind of know what sort of tools do we have in our tool belt. What are the mechanics of mindset? So write this sentence down. I think you already had it, actually. I think it's time to have the talk.
I think it's time to have the talk.
Yeah, okay, great. So when you look at that, actually, I'm changing the script a little bit. You look at that and you tell me where's a place that you could make an adjustment.
Strike out, I think.
There you go. And what is that?
That would be considered soft talk.
Mm-hmm. And what did you move it into?
Solid talk.
Yeah, there you go. So now reread it out loud.
It's time to have the talk.
What kind of vibe does that create compared to the first one?
The word that actually popped up in my mind right after I said that sentence, it's time to have the talk, was affirmative. It's like, it's time.
Yeah.
We need
who's more likely to actually do it? The person who's creating the pitch, an affirmative and decisive picture in their mind with their words that they're using, or the one who's creating a couple, different couches to.
Right. This felt like driver type talk. Like, It's time to have the talk.
Totally.
It's time. It's happening. It's now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's moving from soft to solid. Now go ahead and insert between the and talk. Put in the word first and read that out loud.
It's time to have the first talk. That actually has a lighter feel to it. Mm-hmm. The talk felt like everything all at once.
It's your only shot.
Fire hose, like, here you go.
Right.
This feels like, okay, there's going to be a progression of the conversation. This is the initial launching of the subject, whatever the subject is. Mm-hmm. And so that feels much more manageable in my mind. Like, okay, this is just the first of a couple.
When it feels more manageable, does that make it easier to do?
Yes, I noticed even just like a softness in my body.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, we can do this.
So we already talked about soft, going from soft to solid.
Yes.
So you have 3 other ones. Was that moving from a negation to an affirmation, a projection to a reflection, or a dramatic to a moderation?
I just used the words I think. Okay, I'm just going to go with it. Mm-hmm. Dramatic to moderation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a dramatic to moderation. So we make it, we remove the pressure.
The talk.
Or we make it easier.
Yes.
Okay, removing the pressure is a negation.
Yes.
Making it easier is an affirmation, like just in terms of the picture that we're painting. And by the way, as a side note, it doesn't mean none of these patterns are inherently bad. Like there's a time and a place to say, I think, or there's a time and a place to use certain of these. It's what we're looking for is, when have we stopped becoming aware of the words we're using? And do we have a tendency? Are we using a pattern excessively. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. So, 80% of the listeners never had the talk from their parents. Okay. The 20% who did, and it's smaller than 20%, everybody, would have, I would bet, a lot of money. Which would they have rather have had? The talk or multiple talks?
Multiple talks, hands down.
Mm-hmm. On both ends. The parents want that more and the kids want that more.
Yes. Okay. Like an ongoing conversation, right. Open, able to come back, little bit by bit, right? Dipping the toe in, then right. You're up to your knee, then you're right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do one more. Go ahead and insert between, take the, so you have, it's time to have the first talk and replace the with our.
Oh, yeah. That resonates. Like, I'm not handing down this information and like offloading it to you. But we are sitting side by side.
Yeah. Say it out loud so the listener can hear it too.
It's time to have our first talk. Yeah, this is team language. This is like, we are in it together.
Right.
So much better than it's time to have the first talk. That still produces a wall that's kind of like,
yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's the image of a conversation or a dialogue when there are multiple people involved rather than a lecture.
Yes, completely.
Yeah.
That's a good word picture just to keep in mind. Like you remember like the lecture halls in college where your professor's standing down below and everybody else is in stadium seating. It's like they're delivering the talk versus like sitting at a round table, family style, passing the conversation around.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Okay. So there's two patterns left. Did moving the first talk to our first talk, was that moving from a negation to an affirmation? Or was that moving from a projection to a reflection?
Negation versus affirmation.
This was a tricky one. Projection to reflection.
Okay.
The is anonymous.
Okay, true.
It's faceless. Our becomes personal. So again, this is more of an example of that second kind of use case for reflections. We're not just trying to create distance with the bad stuff. We're trying to shrink distance with the good stuff.
Yes.
And this is our talk, not just the talk.
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, very cool. So we did that one because there you see in one sentence how you can apply these different kind of patterns to adjust the thing, right? Yes. And what we're doing here is like, it's kind of like, I don't really know if this will be that great of a, but it's like karate. It's like you practice certain things, and are you actually going to use those motions in a real fight? No. But by slowly isolating the thing and practicing these movements, you start to internalize a form rather than a formula. Okay.
If you aren't already loving Andy Hickman, you just got to hang out and just digest his content even more, because my sister just met Andy and she was like, Jordan, there's something different about him. He'll like pause after he says something. And you can tell he's carefully like choosing his words. She identified that right off the bat. And to me, that's always been something just that I really admire about you, that when you are relating to someone, when you're speaking to someone, I'm not just going to get a knee-jerk reaction.
Yes.
And so this is what like your passion is teaching other people to kind of slow down the thought process. Think about how you want to articulate yourself, and then deliver the message.
Totally.
When I was in private practice as a counselor, we had group therapy. And right when the groups would start, a lot of times we worked with, 16, 17, 18-year-old girls.
Mm-hmm.
And so this dramatic versus moderate part of the language was just, there was a lot of dramatic language. And what we find with dramatic language is there's a lot of dramatic emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So this like heavy swing from everything's so horrible and I want to end my life and I don't see, life is not worth living, to everything is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We would talk about like just the connection between the emotion and the words that you're choosing, and that it's hard on you to have those types of dramatic swings.
Mm-hmm.
And if you slow your thoughts down, or if you can't really slow your thoughts down, you have to like reverse engineer.
By writing.
You can by writing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, say more about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you are in charge of your language, okay? And a big thing, we're not delving into it in this, but you're seeing examples of it, which is you are not your mind. We talked about that at the beginning. You're not your thoughts, okay? You are a person, not a head. So how do we slow the conversation down? One of the ways we can slow the conversation down is bring the physical senses into play. How do we do that? One of the simplest ways is and it's so accessible because you don't even need another person.
Yes.
Is to write down, what are you saying to yourself? If you take what you're saying to yourself and you write it down, you are literally creating distance between you and it. You're allowing yourself to become an observer rather than the recipient. And now I can see, and now I've touched. If we speak it out loud, I'm also going to hear and feel because of the vibrations that words create when spoken.
Yes.
This is all under the big umbrella of making sense. Okay. And this is actually a great segue. First of all, I can't help but resist. Thank you for your kind words.
Yes.
Okay. Here's how you project instead of reflect, which is, oh, well, that's, anyone can do that and blah, 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 blah. A good practice, if you want to feel better about yourself, when someone says something nice to you, simply say thank you.
That's it.
And breathe.
Yes.
And wait for 3 seconds. Everyone's got a triple, quadruple black belt in deflecting compliments. Okay. You can't feel good about yourself if you don't take compliments to heart.
I just want to emphasize the take a breath.
Yeah.
After you hear a compliment and simply respond with thank you. What is the physiological benefit of taking an intentional big inhale and exhale?
Field of vision. So if you are, when you are breathing fast and shallow, you're in
like fight or flight.
Yeah, exactly. When that happens, you are shutting down all non-essentials. When you shut down all non-essentials, your field of vision shrinks. Okay, so it means you are you're not tasting all the flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you breathe, what you're doing is you're signaling. One of the things that you're doing is you're signaling to yourself, "Hey, it's not dangerous," which gives access to your creative faculties, so you can actually see what's going on and fully taste and receive what's being given to you. So this is our segue. I said there was a small way that we can practice mindset by ourselves. That's focusing on one of those patterns of words and being aware of it. The rest takes care of itself for now. The medium size, or we could say large size, is making sense of a full story, because we are going from words now to stories. Okay?
Yes.
So let's make it parenting theme. So Jordan, I'd like you to think about some parenting wins. What are some of the, so far, because there's more to come, what are some of the Hall of Famer wins that you have had as a parent?
One that comes to mind is going on a 2-week vacation. We went on a tour bus.
Go ahead and title it.
Okay. The title
and write the title down.
Okay. The title would be
as Jordan's doing that, the benefit of titling a story is you're defining it. That helps it have a beginning and an end, which helps you put your hands around it. You can't put just like what we're doing with mindset. It's like, how can I practice mindset if mindset's this amorphous cloud? How can you really enjoy and celebrate the things that you've done unless you can actually touch it, right? Mm-hmm. So titling it is a great way of in one way defining it, so that you can interact with it. Okay, what's another parenting win that comes to mind?
Let's see here. This seems much more difficult to access versus the parenting
failures.
Fails.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, parenting win. Okay.
I know we're in once I hear them. Okay.
Got it.
Nice. See if you can title one more.
Parenting wins. Okay. Scanning the mind.
And give yourself a full breath too. Side note, as Jordan's writing that down, there's a concept called entrainment, which if you want to look up, you can. It relates to parenting. You put, you can have a room filled with clocks. They can all be set to different times. I'm talking like grandfather analog clocks, okay? You put them all together in the same room, they're eventually going to sync up with the biggest clock, okay? So how we breathe is how it affects how our kids breathe, okay? So your kid picks up, they inherit more than just your eye color and your hair color. They pick up on all the behaviors. That is only good news for you if you're aware, which is, okay, is everyone's chaotic right now? I can focus on my breathing, and that's going to cool the temperature in the room down. Okay, what was this third one that you wrote down?
Safe to tell.
Okay, cool. So pick which of these three. You're going on an island today. One of these can come with you on the island. Which one would you like to make sense of?
Present and engaged.
Cool. Okay, so go ahead and, I don't know, you flip the paper over or something and write out the story of present and engaged, and tune me out because I'm going to talk to the audience. Okay. A story, a repeated thought is not a story. It's infinite. You're still the recipient. You're in the passenger seat. Once you recognize that a feeling or a thought is being repeated, now you start to move over into the driver's seat. And you have an opportunity to name that repeated thought or that repeated emotion. That is, for the scope of this podcast, called titling the story. Okay? It doesn't matter if you already know what the story is. In a very real sense, you do. In a very real sense, you don't. You've thought about the story, very different than making sense of the story. There's ways in which this is not true. There's ways in which this is true. Thinking is believing. Feeling is knowing. Once you take the story and you write it out, now you can make sense of it. And you can see what words make up the story. You can't do that kind of thinking if you're just telling yourself the story in your head. So I highly recommend for the listeners, do this exercise for yourself. What are some times when you knocked it out of the ballpark as a parent? Because you have those times. And don't just think about those times, title them. And use your body to write them. And then you're going to do what Jordan's going to do here. And I'll describe how to do it as we're doing. One of the most common things I hear when I'm doing this with somebody that I'm working with is, I've never remembered that part before, or a certain detail, comes to mind that you could not have made contact with unless you had written the story out. Here are the prompts for writing a story well. Complete sentences. If you have a bad taste in the mouth around complete sentences because Mrs. Smith was always nitpicking your grammar in middle school, we're talking about a different game. The clarity of your writing determines the clarity of your thinking. And the clearer your thoughts, the clearer your possibilities. So complete sentences, err on the side of more detail rather than less. Better way to say that is include all the details. What were you thinking when it happened? Where were you physically? What was the room? What were you seeing? Bring the senses in. What were you seeing? What were you hearing? What were the exact words, if you have access to that? And if you want the gold star, what did it mean to you at the time that the story happened? This is different than journaling. The reason why this is different than journaling is so many. One is because you're not just letting the stuff out. You're thinking about the stuff that you've let out. The other reason is because you're framing it in a story. Stories are incredibly powerful. You have yours written?
Yes, I've got it written.
Okay, cool. Let's do it. So, first step of making sense of a story, which is the medium size or large size practice, way to practice mindset, how to develop your mindset. Just like your bodily health, you can have a healthy mindset, you can have a sick mindset, and you're in charge of whether it's healthy or sick. So here's a great way to develop the health of your mindset is to do this kind of exercise with an actual story. So first, you title it, then you write it out with the prompts that I just described. Next step is to read the story out loud. So go ahead and do that, Jordan.
And just to recap, the exercise was to think of a parenting win.
Think of a parenting win.
So this is a story about a parenting win.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Engaged and Present is the title of this story. Our family traveled to Greece for a 2-week vacation. Each day we moved from town to town. This meant packing our bags and meeting our tour group in the lobby at early hours, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. We rode the tour bus for long hours each day, sometimes 4 to 5 hours. At the end of the trip, Jo, our tour guide, asked to speak to Josh and I. She said, "You have done a great job with your kids. They were engaged and present. They didn't need screens to be entertained. That's rare. Usually, kids are in the back of the group on an iPad or phone."
I already know that you're feeling something. What emotion are you feeling as you read the story out loud?
Grateful, like gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
like this sense of gratitude that is tied to this intentionality behind what we do with our kids on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
That like played out in a bigger way when we were outside of our home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, unstaged.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you didn't set the whole thing up.
Right.
Okay, cool. The gratitude that you feel, how is that? What's the texture of it? How do you feel that in your body?
Well, I noticed like just like kind of an internal smile.
Mm-hmm.
Like this warm feeling of unity and teamwork, I guess, between Josh and I.
Unity and teamwork, real, and in the category of thoughts. Where bodily does that exist? When you started to feel the gratitude, what was happening physically?
I think I noticed just like a sense of calm in my chest area. Yeah.
Cool. That's normal, guys. When you're doing this, lots of thoughts swirl around. You want to go for the emotions and the physical sensations first. Those things are the first to hit you, and they're the oldest. Developmentally, language comes after the emotions and the physical sensations. So usually it's like the bigger fulcrum point. Okay, great.
That's like super important.
It is.
I just had like a stall moment where I'm like, wait, that's so true. Before we develop language, we feel things. I'm thinking of a baby, right?
Correct. Yes.
They feel the warmth and the tenderness and the affection of their parent when they're snuggling them, but they don't have the words to say it, but they know that they like that. So they go back for more for that.
Yes.
And so the feelings come before the words somewhere in our development. Then we have this tendency to get more comfortable, which isn't the right word to use, but we get in a habit of explaining our feelings, the way we feel about something, using thoughts.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Right. And this is a very helpful side note. We're doing work on what can be called positive emotions around parenting. Okay. You can also do this work to bring healing into negative emotions around parenting and negative emotions before the parenting ever, part of your life happened. And here's the best way to never be able to do that is to limit yourself to just the thoughts that are swirling around. So the emotions and the physical sensations that's the
deep dive.
That's the deep dive. That's the back door entry into these things that the adult mind doesn't want to look at and doesn't want to think about. Right. So if you can, which you can, pay attention and listen first to the emotions and the physical sensations. We're not pinning these things against each other. It's just we want the whole taste in the mouth. You want to live as an entire integrated being, as a whole being. You want to be healthy. If you look into the etymology of health, it has to do or healing. For something to be healed is for that thing to be whole. They're not
mutually exclusive or
they're not different things.
Each other. Right.
They're not different things. They're the same thing. So a side note is if you are more kind of stuck in the dark stuff, you have two options. One option is to get all intellectual about it and to start letting the mind run wild with all the different theories about this and that and this and that. The other option is to go to the eyewitness. Who's the better? If you're making a court case about yourself, you want the best witnesses. Okay. Most people, if they're stuck, they've got experiences from their past that the court case had ruled you're not good enough or you're not worthy of being loved. Okay. Get the best eyewitnesses for those verdicts. Go to the emotions and the physical sensations because those were closest to the scene. Okay. And then for anyone who thinks that we're dissing on the intellectual stuff, no, you want to bring that into communication with the thoughts. So if you're trying to heal from stories from the past, you first get to the actual story through the emotions. What am I feeling that is that feels dark or heavy? When in my life did I first feel that? That'll bring you back to some stories. Then you can title those stories. You can write them out. You can do what we're about to do. And then you can start to actually see what's the story that I've been telling myself about those things. And are those stories true? And the advantage of this is because it's written down, you can actually see the words. You can change words. Okay. So the after reading it out loud, pay attention to what you are feeling, what emotions are occurring, and then go ahead and go to the next step. The next step is to read the story at a slower rate of speech. Specifically, go for 70% of your normal rate of speech. So if we're calling what Jordan read 100, now she's going to read at 70, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Go for it.
Engaged and present. Our family traveled to Greece for a 2-week vacation. Each day we moved from town to town. This meant packing our bags and meeting our tour group in the lobby at early hours, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. We rode the tour bus for long hours each day, sometimes 4 to 5 hours. At the end of the trip, Joe, our tour guide, asked to speak to Josh and I. She said, "You have done a great job with your kids. They were engaged and present. They didn't need screens to be entertained. That's rare. Usually, kids are in the back of the group on an iPad or phone."
What was it like to read it out loud slowly? What changes in your emotions or physical sensations did you experience?
I really noticed like a softening in my shoulders, like my shoulders just kept kind of settling down the further I got into the story. So it felt like I was kind of like relaxing into this experience. And then I might be trying to intellectualize this. So correct me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Full permission. A few words popped out that didn't before.
Yep. Yeah. What were the words?
So specifically, when I was talking about what the tour guide said, "You have done a great job with your kids." The word "you" just like popped off the page. And I interpreted that as you and Josh, like the two of you have done a great job. And so I'm wondering how to make sense of that. I just noticed that one word just came out.
Good. Okay, so that's normal. When you slow the story down, think of when you're driving on like one of these highways and there's a scenic overlook. It's like you see, if you pull over, you're going to see more than if you're just driving past that overlook.
Yes.
So slowing the story down is the equivalent of pulling off and stopping at the overlook.
Yes.
And because you do that, you're going to see different things. And so different words pop out. So first of all, that's a normal thing. The other question is, what did it mean something to you that word popped out more?
I think it created like a sense of curiosity about the whole sentence. Like, okay, let me go back and see what the entire sentence was. It says, "You have done a great job with your kids." And then immediately kind of the follow-up thought was, I think about like rating how well I do as a parent. I almost said how well or how poorly I do as a parent, but I'm rating myself all the time on how poor I do as a parent.
Exactly.
So that's probably why
that's the whole point of this exercise. It is, there are times where you are knocking it out of the ballpark and you want to be in touch with those times.
Right. But they're unfamiliars.
Right.
So when I see it in writing, in my handwriting, and then I speak it out loud and I feel the vibration of my voice and I hear myself say the words, then I'm able to more deeply like receive the compliment.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. This is how you literally take the compliment to heart.
Yes. Oh, this is good. This is feeling good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And that's what we want. You use the word relaxed. There's 3 ways you can relate to your parenting. You can be insecure about your parenting. You can be confident about your parenting, and you can be comfortable in your parenting. And that's a progression. We're aiming for comfort. You want to be comfortable in your own skin, and you want to be comfortable and in touch with the good ways in which you're parenting. That's a lot more That's how you build, what's the word? I don't know. Like there's kind of like an immunity about it. Like when you do this kind of work, even when the inevitable flares and bombs and stuff that happen in life go off, you don't lose your cool because you've had moments where you didn't try to hide or evade the thing. You let the reality sink in that there are times when you're doing this really well.
Mm.
And that goes a very, very, very long way. Okay, so after you read the story slowly, then what you do is you can take your pen, and whenever you see a period, you're making this just visually easy to follow. Draw a big, thick vertical line or a slash, anything that grabs your eye. This is a visual cue for you to pause and take a big breath in and then do a big exhale out. Yeah, there you go. Nice. Again, the purpose of the breathing is to down regulate the body. We want to go to matter of factsville. Okay. Not wishful thinking or whatever. We want to be, in one sense, sober can have negative connotations. Like that was sobering news. It also can be a very positive thing. Like we can be very present and alert. And yeah, I mean, there's the thing, right? So Jordan's going to do this now. She's going to read her story out loud at the 70% of her normal rate of speech. And when she gets to end of a sentence, she's going to take a full breath in, down into her belly, and she's going to take a full exhale out. And then she's going to move on to the next sentence whenever you're ready.
Engaged and present. Our family traveled to Greece for a 2-week vacation.
Yeah, great exhale.
Each day, we moved from town to town. This meant packing our bags and meeting our tour group in the lobby at early hours, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. We rode the tour bus for long hours each day, sometimes 4 to 5 hours. At the end of the trip, Joe, our tour guide, asked to speak to Josh and I. She said, "You have done a great job with your kids." They were engaged and present. They didn't need screens to be entertained. That's rare. Usually, kids are in the back of the group on an iPad or phone.
If those who are watching the video go back like 30 minutes ago, 45 minutes ago, look at Jordan's face, look at her shoulders, and then come back to this time when you're reading with the breathing, you're going to see a very distinct before and after. What was it like to read the story with the breathing in there?
Several things popped up. Just the first sentence. Our family traveled to Greece for a 2-week vacation.
Right.
Just in a matter of seconds, I would just I had this internal overwhelming feeling of gratitude, gratitude. We went to Greece for 2 weeks. That's what I almost said in my mind. Like,
right.
What a gift to take your family on an international trip like that. Before, I had just kind of like passed by that to get to a different piece of the story, but that popped out as just like, that is a blessing, such a blessing.
The devil's in the details, everybody. So we're trying, that's for both the good stuff and the bad stuff. So for the good stuff here, I mean that in the sense of when you just think about these things, you're missing out 80%.
I guess so. I felt that because each sentence produced some like secondary and tertiary thought, like that I wanted to go like stop and go down that path a little bit because it seemed like there were fresh flowers blooming over there and like I wanted to see more of that.
Yeah.
You know?
I could see it in your face. You were savoring each sentence.
Yes.
Which was great. Cool. What was something else that jumped out? Could either be a change in the emotion or a new thought or a different picture change or whatever.
This was the first time in reading this that I had the thought at the end where I said, usually kids are in the back of the group on an iPad or phone, that I had this feeling like we've been there.
Yep.
We've been there. We haven't been these perfect parents that have never allowed our kids to have screens. And all of a sudden, you know, we made this big transformation and like, no, like, or we needed a transformation. I mean, with our firstborn, we had screens, we had video games, we had all the things.
Right.
And we made a conscious decision that wasn't going well. And so just because he had 2 siblings that were coming behind him, we weren't going to just afford them the same, in his mind, luxuries that he got. Like trap, I want to say trap, like put them in the
handcuffs.
Same trap. Right, handcuffs. And that was a difficult time in our life. But saying that sentence in the context of someone's compliment about the benefits of us saying no to those temptations,
right?
Like that played out in a bigger way, resonated with me into like a deep gut kind of way.
Yeah.
Like that was worth it. Man, we were there before. Like the iPads, the phone, like, you know, shaking down piggy banks for Fortnite bucks. I mean, it was us. I've had another podcast episode where I talk about that. It's, you know, say no when other parents are saying yes. Check out that episode. That's what it's about. Yeah. So this was like, man, I'm glad that we pivoted.
Yes.
And as a united team, Josh and I decided to do something different because it made our entire vacation so connected.
Yes.
And Josh and I would walk behind the kids and be looking and observing them jumping up on things and like razzing each other up and having a great time. And we just were able to look at each other and go like high five and be like, dang, we didn't even think this was possible at one point. This is the good stuff. Like they are allowed to be kids and they are soaking in every moment of this.
Yes. So, okay. So you guys hear it in Jordan's voice. If you watch the video, you'll see it in her body as well. And here's how we transition. So this is the medium to large size way to practice mindset. You are going to feel the effects of this for long times. Okay. So when you do this style of work, it's like you wake up and you're like, man, I feel different, but like, I don't even know what's going on. I remember the first time I did something like this, like I was like, holy cow, I'm like walking around and I have shoulders all of a sudden. Like before I was like this all the time. So the aftertaste physiologically and also mentally lasts for a long time. And that's only good news. So then there's this, how you can give this gift to your children.
Let's go there.
Yeah. So they have wins to share and they have an opportunity to feel them, to take them to heart. You want to build up the emotional and mental immunity and resilience in your children. And it's very easy to do that. So here's the small way for you to do this as a family. Okay.
Great.
Once a day, do it during a meal because that's how you're going to get everybody together. Doesn't matter what meal. It could be breakfast or dinner. Who cares? Every family member has a little notebook. Okay. And what they do once a day is they write one sentence. You want to keep this as simple as possible because then you can do it long term. This is a marathon, not a sprint. One sentence, and that one sentence is about one win. If you're doing this at dinner, it's one win from the day. If you're doing this at breakfast, it's one win from yesterday.
Great.
Okay. If you've got kids that are on the younger side, like 2 or 3 or something like that, and they're not writing yet, they draw a picture or they draw a scribble. Trust me, they're going to have a ton of fun doing this with you. And so that's once a day. Takes 3 minutes. Okay. Once a week, we love doing this on Sunday. I encourage families to do this on Sunday. Is you have a longer sitting down. Still do it during a meal is what I encourage. But also there's totally space to find your own flavor of how you do it. Maybe it's before you do board games and stuff in the evening or something like that.
Family huddle time. That's Sunday evening at the Langdon house.
Yeah, man, actually, this is like cookies and milk right here. Okay. Yes. Okay. So what you do as a family, you get the books out. You go one at a time. Each family member reads their win out loud. The whole family takes a big breath in, takes a big breath out. What you're doing is you are supporting your kid in letting that win sink in. This is, you are bringing them to matter-of-factsville.
Okay? Yes.
So they didn't just get lucky when they made the soccer team for the 4th year in a row. They're an actually really good soccer player.
Yes.
Right? And so Jimmy shares his win, and then Susie goes next. She reads one of her wins next. Everyone breathes, reads out loud. Dad's giving the nice thumbs up to Susie. Okay. And then the next family goes. And then you go around until you've done your wins from the week.
Okay.
Okay. This is a very easy to do, low bar entry. Your kids will love it. You're going to see them do like the giddy, fun wiggle, squirming in there. That's the good stuff going into them.
Resonating inside internally. They are actually feeling the like reverberation of the win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which takes them back to like infancy.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you talk about like inner child work, like you're getting in touch with your innocence.
Yep.
And allowing yourself to just soak that in without the distortion of the world that you encounter later on in your life.
Your young kids know this is second nature to them. They've got no resistance to doing this.
Right. We are the ones that are like, oh, this feels weird or awkward or.
So this is what's so beautiful about the families. If you do this as a family, you're all helping each other out. So the teenage boy's gonna at first, who knows? Be open. They might love this.
Sure.
They might totally love this. And that if they've got a younger sibling and they're seeing their sibling just like, they're just owning this stuff and soaking it in, that gives the older kid permission to do the same thing. Okay. So that's a great way to do this as a family.
Awesome. So just recapping on that, you're going to have each one has their own little notebook. Every day they write one win in it, just a one sentence. Okay. And then once you can share them at dinner, and then once a week.
Or so during the week, you're not sharing them. Okay, you're just writing them. You're trying to keep this as lean and easy as possible. And then once a week is when you have the longer time when you're sharing them out loud.
Okay. And if someone wants to go on and share all 7 of theirs, are you cool with that?
Like, totally. Yeah. It's whatever you want to do within your family. You might vibe better that way. And you might, the default to alternating every one, because it helps with keeping the intention, and your kids better than me. So if they want to do all 10 and, all 7 in a row and just freaking slam dunk the thing and let them slam dunk it.
Awesome. Okay. And then I have to ask the question because I anticipate there's other people like me out there that are going, okay, should we then say, now that statement had a dramatic in it? Could you take that out, or are we correcting them or not?
For now, let this be an unadulterated, positive, pure, let them win. You already have the prompt of it being a win. You might even have some situations where it's like they're writing the win of like, I didn't screw up at kickball last time. That's fine. They're going to start to go back to that entrainment thing. Like, if you are making this a consistent thing in the family life, they're going to start to pick up of like, oh yeah, why am I phrasing it that way? I could phrase it this other way. So let them pick that up through osmosis.
I could also see myself, because this is a pattern I'm sure you noticed if you listen to the podcast often, that I like to kind of reframe things.
Yep.
And so I could see myself as a mom saying like doing the reframe for them. And then they affirm it and like agree with like, yeah, say what you said again about I didn't screw up in kickball. Is that how you worded it?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Like, I didn't screw up in kickball this week. And so my response would be like, oh, so you improved at kickball this week. And then, yes. So you're kind of giving them that language or permission to use that language with themselves without like criticizing them. Like,
I got you.
Saying this.
This is how the family team huddle comes into play. That's a way better thing to do in the family team huddle.
Okay.
Is, hey guys, here's one thing we can all think about for the next week here's one way you can say things. Here's another way that you can say things. And it always feels better when you say it this way. Okay.
Got it.
The moment in which they're sharing, let that flow.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. So let it flow. Let them naturally share their wins.
Yep.
But in the part of the huddle where you get to, what are we working on as a family?
Yep,
one goal the whole family's working on, it's going to be like practicing this reframing thing. Like anytime you notice yourself say something in a, negative or negation,
right?
Let's flip that on its head and see how we can make that into an affirmation or a positive.
Yeah, cool. Exactly.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Nice. Yes. Very cool.
Great. So that is kind of the bite-sized way we can practically work on choosing our words wisely and kind of processing these different emotions and experiences that we've had as a family.
Yeah. Should we take a trip down memory lane?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. So we started off with, what is that mindset thing everyone keeps talking about? And like, it annoys me and attracts me at the same time, right?
Yes.
How in the world do I get to do it? I got 20 million things going on, blah, blah, blah. So then we defined mindset. First, we played some games. First, you heard Jordan read kinds of sentences that you often say to yourself in your own head. We all do it. And then say them a slightly different way and be like, why does that feel different? We defined mindset as a set of stories you're in charge, keep in mind. Okay. And then we started to explore, okay, so stories are made up of words. What are the kinds of words that I'm using? And we broke that down into 4 main patterns of words. Soft talk versus solid talk. Negations versus affirmations. Projections versus reflections. And what in the world was the other one? Help me out.
Dramatic versus moderate.
Dramatics versus moderations. Okay. And one pattern puts you in the passenger seat. The other pattern puts you in the driver's seat. Then we started talking about what are the ways that we can practice this. A small way, a handy way, it's always with you, is pick one of those patterns of words. The one that made you go, ugh, like the most, that's public enemy number 1. So write that down on a piece of paper, just those 2 words. If it was negations and affirmations, write negation and affirmation and circle affirmation. Okay. And pay attention when you speak. That's it. Medium or large way to practice this is to find a combination of words, aka a story. You can do this for both quote unquote negative stories and positive stories. We did a positive story today, which is what are times when you knocked it out of the ballpark from a parenting standpoint. You're gonna hear crickets at the beginning. Sit with it. Give yourself the grace of some breathing room because you've got parenting wins.
Yes. Amen.
Then you title it, you write it out, and you follow the process that we described as we were doing it. The third way to practice mindset from a parenting perspective is as a family with your kids. And that was to write one win into one sentence once a day. And then once a week, share that, socialize it, make it real with the family, inside the family, in a downregulated state by reading it out loud and breathing. And those were the 3 ways that you can practice mindset.
So good. Andy Hickman with the HEAL community, HEL. This is the good stuff. People, I was part of Andy's accelerator program, and I joined his accelerator program when I had just taken over a brand new role at Families of Character as a CEO. Mm-hmm. Mind you, I homeschool my kids. I've got a lot going on. And so this was quite a new role with a heavy load of responsibility, new tasks, and new skills that I would need to develop over the course of the year. And Andy and I were introduced by a mutual friend, and I jumped into his accelerator program at a time where I thought that I shouldn't. Right? Like, classic. I do not have time or money to invest in myself when I have all these roles coming up and I'm going to be bogged down for the next 5 years of my life. This has set me free.
Yeah.
I never imagined, and even still, sometimes a year and a half later, I have this little like thought, like, should I have free time? Mm-hmm. I run a business. And I homeschool my children. I should be like looking just ragged and worn out and beating my head against the wall every day because that would mean I'm successful and like in the grind.
I remember I'll explain at the end a couple different ways that you can engage with this for the listener. Jordan did the large way. The large way is a year-long program. I remember about 6 months into that year, you talking to me and being like, when does the honeymoon kind of like end? You know, like when does this wear off? Like, is this what's going on?
Yes.
It's like, it doesn't.
Right.
Right.
And then I'm engaging with other people in the group and I'm waiting for them to tell me like, well, I've got a nanny and like we have a groundskeeper and like that's why I'm so relaxed. No. Right. When I get to know the people in the group, they're like, I have 8 children. I run my own HVAC business and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you seem so free. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're engaging in hobbies. You're relaxed. Mm-hmm. Like you're full of joy. Mm-hmm. And this is the outcome of doing this work and just getting in a natural rhythm of allowing yourself to be seen through your own storytelling and being able to edit your story.
Yeah.
Woo.
Big
stuff. So much gratitude for you, Andy Hickman. This is good. And it's just such a blessing to be in person with you. A lot of times we do these interviews, virtually, which is great, but I always prefer
so different. It's so much better.
Yes. Face-to-face stuff. So Andy, tell our audience if they want to engage you in another way outside of this practical exercise and podcast, how do they find you? What's the best kind of first steps?
Okay, cool. So we'll do the short version. So heal, first of all, if you're hearing that and you're like, what in the world is he saying? Heal is an ancient word. It means 3 things. It's the root of the word whole. So you think of holistic, you go back to that, and in different languages, it goes back to this word heal. So it is conveying an image of wholeness Heal, the sound of that word, it's also a sailing term. It's the sound of a sail catching wind. So some natural momentum. And then heal in Hebrew also means life of God. So heal is both a personal development method and a personal development community. So we teach people how to reintegrate themselves through emphasis on the physical senses. We talked about the difference between thinking and making sense. Once that integrity is experienced, that's where the ease comes from. That's like the sail catching wind. You already have all the things in you. This is a very real statement. You have all the capabilities and abilities to live a life that is creative and fulfilling and full of purpose. It's a matter of connecting the pieces so that it flows. Once someone is in that state long enough, then their eyes start to move up in one sense, out and up. And our belief within Heal is that creativity is not just an act of doing something, it's a spiritual reality. And so ultimately, someone finds full fulfillment in their life when they develop a friendship with God. And that's what the big picture is all about. So if you're interested in learning how that's done, the method of that, you can go to heal.co. That is HEL.co. There's two different choose your own adventures. If you want the small choose your own adventure, we're releasing a series of letters that I've written that distill the best principles of how to actually practice the development of your personhood in real life. Things that are easy to implement and powerful principles. Those series of letters will be available to you for free. You'll find a button on our website to receive that. That's the best option for the majority of you. For a minority of you, you're listening to this conversation with Jordan and I, and you've been locked in the entire time. Jordan was sharing with me a win last night about when someone came up to her and said, Jordan spoke at an event, and this person said, what you were saying was like, it's like you've been living in my head for 3 years. So some of you are feeling that. If you're in that category, we're doing a special offer with Families of Character. Normally, when I do a discovery call, it's a 2-hour session. It's a way for me to help you create some clarity in your life. That is typically $250 for a discovery call. We're offering for the first 3 people that are action-oriented, they're decisive, and they're ready to make some kind of change. There'll be a link in the show notes. We'll offer a 60% discount for this. So I will do 2-hour discovery session with you for $99. Do not do this if you're not ready to go deep. Only do this if you're ready to go deep. By default, what we will do is I will send you a document to do some writing in. We're going to find some of these stories in your life that you want to bring healing into. And in that 2-hour session, we'll create some healing together. So that's how you can find us. All of those things are available at heal.co, HEL.co.
I cannot endorse this enough. Personally, I have been through the 2-hour session, and there were some tears. There was great relief at the end of this. I felt seen. I felt heard. I felt like I was being allowed to enter into my experience and see it from a different perspective. And that, folks, sets you free. So thank you for the huge discount for our audience.
For sure.
I appreciate just the honesty in saying, like, if this is not for you, don't sign up. No. If you are serious about getting some healing around some tender spots in your past, even if you're not quite sure, like, of what exactly that is, but you feel like there's something lurking back there, I encourage you to go all in and allow yourself the gift that this is. So check him out, Andy Hickman, my good friend, my buddy, at heal.co, HEL.co. Thank you very much, Andy. This was such a gift.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Thank you for having me, Jordan, and thank you for what you're doing at Families of Character. It's a big light.
Awesome. Catch you on another episode of the Families of Character show real soon.
Woo!